Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our driver ratings for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We're going to give each driver a score between 1 and 10. Before we do that though, remember to like and subscribe, and of course, a huge shout out to the members: Dakota, Joyce James, Roman Myers, Cinnamon Strudel, Michael Johnson, F, Mr. Eurovision 1986, No Edam on Sandwiches, and Flandy Skick. I'll get there in the end. It's a tough one. It's a tough name, but there we are. They are the members. If you want to become a member, click the link in the description down below. You can join either on YouTube or on Patreon. With that being said, let's get into this. And as always, we start with everyone's favourite team. Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber, with Gabriel Bortoleto firstly. So looking at him here, where was he? So he started dead last in 20th. In the end would finish 18th, which was last of the drivers who actually finished. He was one of the 3 guys who, at the start of the race, pit to the hard compound tyres during the safety car. Out of the 3 who did it, it only really worked for Ocon, and even then I don't think it worked to the extent that they were hoping it was going to work. So overall, I'm just going to give him a 5. He's in a Sauber, he finished last, but, uneventful, apart from nearly killing his manager. Apart from that, relatively okay from Bortoleto, who it's difficult to watch at the minute because I know he's far more talented than what that Sauber is giving him, so that sucks, but there we go. Cross to his teammate Nico Hülkenberg, had a bit of a better race, qualified 18th, finished up in 15th, so did a bit better than his teammate. Still nothing to write home about. That result at the start of the year is looking better and better with each passing race weekend, but here we go. I think they are in a similar position to Aston Martin at the minute, where they're just like, right, come on, let's get through 2025 so we can get into 2026. We'll be called Audi then, and then that'll fix all of our problems by itself. I'll give him a 6 though overall. Well done to Hülkenberg. A good weekend for the Williams boys. Alex Albon started in 11th place, finished up in 9th, just missing out on Q3 by something like 0.007 or something like that. But in the end, scores a couple good points for the Williams team. Their first double points finish since Baku of last year. And for me, it's either a 9 or a 10. I've written down 9 on the piece of paper, but normally if a Williams gets points, I give him 10 no matter where it is. So I'm still feeling kind of generous. I'll give him a 10. There you go. Alex Albon, you can have a 10 out of 10. And so can his teammates, in fact. Carlos Sainz. This was the first weekend in a long time where I've watched Carlos Sainz and been like, yes, that is the Carlos Sainz I want to see. Qualified 6th, in the end finished up in 8th. Towards the end of the race, was just giving Albon some DRS to help him defend from Isaac Hadjar for those last few points places. Overall, a very good weekend for Carlos Sainz. I mean, realistically, when you look at the cars that are in front of him, you have your likes of your Ferraris, your Mercedes, your McLarens, and Max Verstappen. I mean, for a team like Williams in a race like this, 8th is the best you're possibly going to get unless something unbelievable happens. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. A wonderful performance. Hopefully more of this across the rest of the season, less of what we've seen over the previous few races. Another good weekend though for Isaac Hadjar, who now in the championship is the second highest placed Red Bull affiliated driver, as he, with his 1 point from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, he has now overtaken Yuki Tsunoda. He started the race in 14th, finished the race in 10th, 1 point, and I'm not giving him a 4. I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10 as well. Good stuff from the rookie. Across to Liam Lawson, who, you know what, I think this is his best race of the year. Still not to the point where I think he was last year, but heading in the right direction. Hopefully the Red Bull team give him enough time this time to actually get there. But Liam Lawson qualified 12th, finished up in 12th. He did have a 10-second time penalty for forcing another driver off the track. I still actually haven't seen that clip, but I don't think the penalty affected him in any way in terms of his final position. Overall, though, a decent race. I'm giving him a 7. Hopefully better to come from him. An anonymous race for the Haas team. Like I said, Ocon pit on the second lap under safety car. Behrman didn't. He went from 15th to 13th. apart from that, I don't really remember seeing much of him at all. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. And you know what? His teammate can get the exact same thing. He was the only one who kind of made that early stop work. He wasn't too far behind Behrman at the end, considering that he started in 19th place compared to Behrman's 15th place. Ocon was 14th at the end. There was a bit of team orders to swap him around at one point for a strategy reason. In the end, they really need to swap him. Who's to say? But there you go, 7 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. And finally, Jack Doohan was the last of those three who pit on the first lap. And like I've said, it didn't really work. Jack Doohan went from 17th to 17th. I'm going to give him a 5 because the Alpine showed some tremendous pace in the hands of this man. Pierre Gasly qualified a fantastic 9th, but didn't make it to the end of lap 1. Tapped by Yuki Tsunoda on that lap, went into a DNF. Not much he could do from there. Was going for quite a daring overtake around the outside, but you know, it's just one of those things that happen sometimes on lap 1. I'm going to give him a 5, and we will move on from there to Aston Martin. Lance Stroll qualified 16th, finished 16th. That's about it, really. I mean, what can you say? It's the Aston. They're dreadful. 16th, 6 out of 10. There you go. Alonso had a bit of a better weekend. A very good qualifying for him. When we're saying very good qualifying for Fernando Alonso and the qualifying result is 13th, you know there's something quite wrong. But he did convert it into 11th, very close to getting his first point of the year. I'm going to give him an 8. I thought it was very good for the Aston, which at points this weekend looks slower than it did this time last year, which is not good at all. But we move to Mercedes and Kimi Antonelli, who I thought had an okay weekend. Again, nowhere near the pace that George Russell had shown, but so far George Russell has been on another level this year compared to where he's previously been. But yeah, Kimi Antonelli I thought still did pretty well. Qualified 5th, finished up in 5th. Yeah, I think it was fine. I'm going to give him a 7. A 7 for Kimi Antonelli there. And then George Russell is here. As I said, George Russell has been really, really good this year. I think so to this point, probably his best season he's ever had. He started this race in 3rd, a very good qualifying. Eventually would finish in 5th, being passed by Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. Out of the races we've seen, it's probably his weakest so far of this season, but still a very good race. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Mercedes just did not seem to have much pace at all when we came to the race itself. Yuki Tsunoda, he qualified in 8th place and then did not finish the race. A good qualifying for him. Qualifying is getting there. You know, that's the thing that we saw Liam Lawson struggle with. That's the thing we saw Sergio Perez struggle with. You know, and he seems to get it relatively quickly. So it's getting there. But of course, his race ended on what? Turn 4 or 5? So not much to say from there. I mean, if you're going to point blame to the cause of that crash, I mean, you have to point your finger at Yuki Tsunoda, but overall it would, for me, be a racing incident. There's no need to hand out penalties or anything like that. I'm just going to give him a 5. And we'll move on to this man, Max Verstappen, our pole sitter on Sunday evening, but would eventually have to settle for P2. Had the penalty coming out of turn 1, which kind of just ended the race for the lead from there. I haven't fully read everything yet, but I saw Christian Horner being like, without the penalty, we would have won the race. I don't really know. I think the McLaren was a little bit faster overall. I know at the end the difference was only like 2.3 seconds, but realistically at the end of the race, Piastri didn't have to push. He knew Verstappen was behind him. He knew he had quite a good gap. He wasn't really pushing for it. If it had been the other way round, who knows? I think the only way they would have won the race is if they'd come out of that first corner in the lead without having to have the corner cut or push someone off and all that kind of stuff. I'm seeing a debate rise at the minute online about Max and kind of like how if he gets pushed off, it's a penalty for him. If he kind of pushes someone else off, it's a penalty for him. And kind of no matter what happens, it's a penalty for him. And it is kind of interesting to see how that debate will go from now on, because it does seem like when you go into those kind of challenges, it does always seem to be, no matter what Max Verstappen does, he's the one who will get the penalty. And, you know, a lot of the time it is because he deserves the penalty. But there is some cases where it's like 50-50. Like, I think this one this week was like, I could, if he hadn't got a penalty, I would have been like, oh yeah, I can see that. And I see a lot of people go, yeah, well, he goes off the brake, so he's ahead at the apex. And it's like, yeah, well, god damn it, it's bloody racing. Get over it. Come on now. let's see some racing. He was obviously furious at the end of the race and didn't want to say anything because, one, it'd be twisted by the media, and two, he might receive a fine. But yeah, overall, I think P2 was a very good result. The pole lap, again, was incredible from him. It's just that initial start, I think, let him down. But overall, I'm still going to give him a 10. Because you know what? He finished second in a car that should have been, what, third? Fourth? He did very well. Got more points than Lando Norris this weekend. I think he's now 2 or 3 points behind Norris in the championship. He's a bit more behind Oscar Piastri, but as this season goes out, we might look at these first initial races and say, well, that's the one where Max made sure that he was still in contention for when the grid got closer with the whole flexi-wing stuff. So, one to keep an eye on, but still a very good race weekend from Max Verstappen. Not as good for Lewis Hamilton. Really no pace all weekend. Qualified 7th, finished up in 7th. Heading into qualifying itself, he was even questioning if he would be in the top 10. So I guess in the end, he might be quite happy with 7th. But yeah, just really not there for Lewis Hamilton this weekend. I'm going to give him a 6. And we're going to move on to his teammate, who was absolutely fantastic. Qualified 4th, finished in 3rd, made those medium tyres work at the start like no one else on the grid could. Got it working incredibly well. Helped with a perfect pit stop from the Ferrari team. Then, on the hard tyres towards the end of the race, had tremendous pace, finishing up in 3rd. A beautiful job, a 10 out of 10. For me, I think he is driver of the day. I thought he was absolutely incredible. Great stuff from Charles Leclerc. Cross to Oscar Piastri now, of course, started in 2nd, finished the race in 1st. 10 out of 10. Really, just a perfect job from Piastri. I mean, didn't lose his cool at all, even with the incident at the start. He just kind of kept his head. That overtake on Lewis Hamilton is possibly the overtake of the year so far. Just really, really, really good stuff. Again, from Oscar Piastri, which of course ends with him being our new championship leader. All good in the Piastri house. Here's Lando Norris, qualified 10th after the crash in Q3. Would come back to finish in 4th place. It's not a 10 because of the incident in Q3. It's not a 9 because Lewis Hamilton tricked him with the same trick twice. I'm going to give him an 8, and I do think that is rather generous because I think with the car he had and the pace he had, he should have been on the podium despite starting 10th. And I'm seeing little cracks forming now and in that we've seen start to form over the last few weeks. It's not heading in a good way. I don't think him now being in 2nd place of the championship will help him in any way. I think he's a guy who, if his confidence is there, he's fantastic. If his confidence gets knocked, you see that in his performances. And right now, his confidence is not good. I think having a week break between now and the Miami Grand Prix will probably help him. And we will see how that affects the rest of the championship. But there is our scores for this weekend. 10s for Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Isaac Hadjar, Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon. Lowest scores of the weekend are 5s going to Yuki Tsunoda, Jack Doohan, Pierre Gasly and Gabriel Bortoletto. There we go. That is the driver ratings for this week. We'll be back tomorrow for all things Stop and Go F1 Retro Review in 1981. In Spain, so that's going to be out tomorrow. And then on Friday, there's a brand new video buying knockoff F1 merch from Temu. If there's any news across the week, we'll be here on Saturday to discuss it. Apart from that, we will see you all next time out at Miami. So that's all to come on the channel, so subscribe for all that. I will see you then. Have a good one. Goodbye.